Erasmus Crane and the Cthulhu Murders, a short horror story, written by Michael van der Voort, narrated by Robin Reeds. It was the early morning, at around 5 a.m., that I stepped down from the hansom cab and into the swirling murk of pre-dawn rain. Around me, the jaundiced glow of the gaslights offered a valiant but ultimately futile effort against the fog, and their hazy glow provided little by the way of illumination. I was therefore heartened to hear a familiar voice by my elbow. It was the voice of the great detective Erasmus Crane, who greeted me with a warmth that seemed somewhat out of place in the dull, melancholic drizzle of the freezing morning. Summoning me to follow, he calmly introduced another man who was standing beside him as a police detective by the name of Cooper. This Cooper was a large, mustachioed gentleman whose barrel chest seemed perfectly suited to his family name. He nodded in acknowledgment and led the way with the aid of his lamp down the narrow cobblestone alley and away from the main road. At length we came to an intersection between three back streets, lit more clearly by an overhead gaslight and partitioned off by a thin stretch of rope that had been strung between the two walls, clearly with the intention of stopping the public, or any other interloper, from proceeding any further. Perceiving what lay just beyond that rope, however, I was convinced that this flimsy cord barrier actually served little purpose, since most men, upon catching even a glimpse of that grim tableau, would no doubt have turned heel in horror and raced in the opposite direction. Upon the ground, stretched out in a hideous flop of ragdoll contortions, was what remained of a young woman. She had evidently been not only killed, but butchered. Stripped of her clothes, which now lay in a tangled heap by her side, she had been slashed across the middle so that her innards, still slightly steaming in the cool of the morning, spilled out of her, only to have them been reorganized and placed in a carefully deliberate arrangement. Just below the rib-cage, two almond shapes, presumably meant to represent eyes, had been daubed in blood on either side of the meridian line. Below them, torn forcibly out through a single horizontal slit, the intestines had been cut into tubes of similar length and splayed out in a fanned shape so that they writhed below, curling downward in a spread of grasping tendrils. The overall effect was to make the lower torso appear like the dangling tentacles of some great cephalopod, a hideous, squirming octopus merged with a man. Below this careful arrangement, the rest of the intestines were scattered, seemingly at random, upon the floor. It was therefore...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?